Ever since I was in college, I dream of creating my own playable environment. Beautiful, detailed, and original like the ones I found in my favorite video games, or like those amazing and stunning projects we usually find in ArtStation. However, I didn't really know where to start. Hi there, I am Paola, true environment artist in training, and I would like to show you a little bit of my adventure creating my first playable map from scratch. Today I'm going to tell you some details about the initial idea and the creation of the concept art, as well as some lessons I've learned that have helped me overcome my creative block. So bring your favorite drink or snack and get comfortable, cause the journey begins now. Remember that what you will see in this video is nothing more than me sharing with you my own learning process to become a 3D environment artist, as well as my own experience following Tiago Klavke's Environment Art Mastery course. Therefore, this content is not intended to be a step-by-step tutorial or to replace in any way the original course. So, if you want to learn everything you need to be an environment artist, you'll want to take a look at his course and his website. You'll find the links in the little info box below. The initial idea was born in May 2022. While surfing the internet looking for references, I found the beautiful illustration Pueblito Boyacense by Mauricio Alejandro Perez, inspired by his vacations in Boyacá, Colombia. Since being an expert in the geography of my country is not one of my qualities, I decided to ask my parents for the location of the town, because they were born and lived some years in that region. Then my mom told me that a couple of years ago she traveled there with my grandparents, and she said that Pueblito Boyacense is actually a neighborhood, or a small town, which is inhabited mostly by artisans, musicians, and artists of different techniques and disciplines. Her face lit up completely when she talked about the countless details waiting to be discovered by visitors, and she also emphasized that she undoubtedly enjoyed every second she shared there with my grandparents, who left us some time later. Infected by her enthusiasm, I decided to do a little more research and look for more references about the place. However, although from time to time many tourists walk its streets, the photos I found were limited to the same areas and the same details over and over and over again, full of families enjoying their day, of course, but hiding a lot of important information about the environment. So I decided to pack my bags, take my cell phone with me, and venture out to tour the place on my own. Lesson learned number 1. Appreciate the inspiration hidden in your day-to-day life. Surely, there is a place where just thinking about it makes you feel very happy. Or there is a subject that you are passionate about and makes your imagination fly. If it's something that makes your heart dance, it's worth taking it as a starting point. As soon as I arrived, my excitement increased, and I really couldn't believe what I found. 162 colorful houses, full of handcrafted details, unique facades, textures, and decorations everywhere. So I took all day to capture every detail and create in my mind a mental image, since my purpose until then would be to faithfully represent the place digitally. However, the scope of the project was too much for me, so I set out to come up with a way to simplify it, thinking that maybe I could make the map modular and reuse elements in some parts. But it was at this moment that I knew I f***ed up, because I had never built such a large environment, let alone a playable one. And although my mind wanted to approach the project modularly, I had no idea what those words really meant. So, after putting on my makeup and my clown hair, I forgot about the idea. Lesson learned number 2. Make sure you are fully aware of the aspects that can affect the development of your project. It is important to understand that, just as in my case, the lack of knowledge of tools and techniques, there are other factors that can force you to limit or completely discard a project. Identifying them before you start will help you to avoid problems and frustrations later on. Sometime later, the desire to make an environment for my portfolio was still in my head, so I decided to look for some existing concept art, or maybe some essence that another artist had already done to recreate it. After all, if I stuck faithfully to a reference like when I was learning the basics of 3D, I would have little chance of failing and at least a couple of nice screenshots. At this point, the frustration was such that I only cared about adding something to my portfolio. Luckily, the voice in my head told me, "Do you want to create a game environment someday and get paid for it? Then you should try and learn how to do it right." Lesson learned number 3. Avoid forgetting the main reason why you want to do the project. Doubts, insecurities, and fears will always appear, and more so before starting something new and unknown. So learn to ignore your pessimistic adult thoughts, which only help you to let go of your dreams. And instead try to listen to the voice of your inner child, the one that has always told you that you are capable of anything. At the beginning of October 2022, I remembered that years ago there was a virtual conference with Thiago Klavke, one of the environment artists behind several maps of Overwatch, entitled The Making of Overwatch's Busan Map, in which he talked about the process behind bringing to life one of the maps that I like the most in the game. And at the end of the conference, he told us that in his website, he offered some courses to learn how to make 3D environments. I decided to search if it was possible to take a mentorship at that time, mostly looking for guidance. But instead, I found the Environment Art Mastery course, where the whole process is explained stage by stage, going deep into the skills and tools needed to create a playable 3D environment from scratch. So I knew right away that taking that course was my last chance in life for create a beautiful, optimized, playable, and most importantly, memorable environment. That day I decided it was time to leave all my doubts behind and buy the master edition of the course, which included access to the Discord community, exclusive monthly content, as well as the support and feedback that I needed. Lesson learned number 4. It's worth keeping track of those artists who share their knowledge. You never know when they will teach you new things. On the other hand, you can also consider supporting some Patreons or join some artist communities, where members usually share all kinds of educational resources and support each other to grow. Taking the notion of Pueblito Boyacense as a starting point, I set out to create my own village that would bring together some of the most memorable and important places for me. Drawing inspiration from the cobblestone streets of Mongi, the beautiful and minty facades of El Cocuy, the striking and welcoming streets of Salento, the explosion of color and ornamentation that characterizes Ráquira, and the tranquility that permeates the Laguna de Tota. All of them beautiful places that are a clear reflection of how the inhabitants took the traditional colonial architecture and transformed it into something totally new, from the use of bright colors, textures in the facade coatings, and the inclusion of decorative elements, all in search of establishing their own identity and thus away from the Spanish influence. Consequently, the Villa del Artesano, which in Spanish means something like Village of Artisans, is an imaginary town located in the heart of some Colombian mountain range, inhabited only by artisans who are dedicated to warmly welcome the tourists year after year. It is cozy, happy, quiet, sunny and warm, and it is full of corners to explore, take pictures, and buy local products, food, and even souvenirs. Lesson learned number 5. Dare to imagine big and bet on creating something out of the ordinary. Don't be afraid to combine the different themes, places, or elements, because if you pay attention to the details, you can find the balance between them that will allow you to create something original and impactful enough to be remembered. Every great project starts with an idea that progressively takes shape thanks to the mood board, which can be as extensive or limited as you need. In my case, keeping in mind that I took around 2K photos during my visit to the Pueblito Boyacense, and considering that I also had an image bank of approx 100 photos of the other places, the work consisted in limiting the amount of them to avoid being distracted by too much information and to select only the relevant ones. So I started by classifying them according to the location where they were taken. Then I selected the houses, places, and details that I found most interesting, and finally added them to the mood board. I also included some projects of artists and video games whose art style I admire, in order to form a vision about the materials, textures, and lighting that I would like to achieve in my final piece. Lesson learned on number 6. Collect as many references as you need, always making sure that they have similarities that allow their subsequent cataloging. Remember to discard those that don't contribute anything relevant to the project. To be honest, I'm a person who tends to forget things easily, so I have a habit of keeping the important things written down somewhere. So my next step was to make a specific list of the items I would like to include in the project. With this in mind, according to my mentor Tiago, the next step is very important and consists of imagining what it feels like to walk and explore the place we are creating. Since at the end of the day, we want the player to feel transported to the world we are designing. And for this, we must identify the sensations we want to provoke in him and select some keywords that can help us define the mood of the environment. Later, with pencil and paper in hand, I made some tentative sketches of the map, taking as a starting point some additional tutorials on how to design a level. After a few iterations, I combined a couple of the sketches and the result was detailed enough to visualize in my mind what the project could be, and abstract enough to turn it into a 3D prototype of the level, inside any editor, which in this case will be Unreal Engine. So, what did I learn? Identify a theme or place that makes my heart dance. It's important that I feel the same excitement and passion for my environment as I expect my players to feel when they dive into it. After all, I'm going to spend months working on it. Recognize in early stages the factors that could complicate the realization of the project. Features of my PC, knowledge of techniques or tools, time, realistic, that I can invest to work on it are some examples. To shut up, the adult who makes me doubt everything, and to start listening to my inner child who pushes me to achieve incredible things. Keeping in touch with artists and being part of some artistic communities will allow me to learn new things constantly. I shouldn't be afraid to risk creating something out of the ordinary. This is my chance to put all my creativity and all my love into my work. Gather as many references as I think necessary before starting, organize them, and discard those that don't contribute anything relevant to the project. Mentally travel to the place I want to create. What does it feel like? What can I see? What smells can I perceive? What sounds can I hear? The most important? To have fun. At the end, I'm creating my own world under my own rules, so enjoying every step I take is also part of the process. I'd really like you to join me in the next video, where I'll tell you everything I learned while doing the basic design of my level inside Unreal Engine. But I'll tell you in advance that some things got out of control. Remember that if you want, you can tell me a little bit about yourself and your next amazing project in the comments. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me today. Hope to see you soon. Hasta la próxima.